If you still haven't had enough of elk yet, you'll love our next story. The high country of Long Valley between McCall and Cascade is not traditional wintering range for elk, and those that stay are often guilty of causing damage to private property. The solution is to move the elk, but that may not be as easy as it sounds.
So what you try and do is bait the animals into the general area and then get them specifically into the trap.
The idea is to get 8 or 9 unsuspecting elk into this enclosure and then trigger a remote control switch that swings the gate shut. In 4 attempts, Conservation Officer Larry Gendrich has already caught and moved 30 animals from this area over the hill to the South Fork of the Salmon River.
And unfortunately, what happens in a place like this, it's not a wintering area, they stick around. If they're getting any food at all, they don't go over the mountain down to their traditional wintering areas, and we get heavy snows and they're caught here.
It began several years ago with 4 or 5 elk. The landowner, Dr. Harold Noakes, started feeding the animals on his property because he and his neighbors love watching wildlife.
Well, it is. They're beautiful, and as long as we've had them around, we still enjoy them. We watch them come in every day, and we count them, and we even name some of them. Yeah, it's a joy to have them.
But when the numbers got out of hand, increasing to almost 80 animals, he called on the Idaho Department of Fish and Game for help.
Yeah, it's not a good idea to feed animals. You know, it seems like a good thing to do. You know, your heart says, geez, it's a rough winter, we got to give them some food. Animals can make it very, very well on their own. This individual here started with just a few animals, 4 or 5, and in 5 years it's grown to close to 70 to 80 animals.
The elk coming cautiously into the trap site don't have the sunken angular hips that indicate an animal in distress. If it appears that wildlife in your area is starving, Larry suggests giving Fish and Game a call. A wildlife biologist will come out, take a look at the animals, and assess their condition.
If it appears that we have animals that aren't going to make it through the winter, which doesn't happen very often, but on rare occasions with a real tough winter, we have groups of animals that won't survive, and we do feed those animals.
The plodding pace begins to pick up as the lead cow approaches the fence. Back in the ranks, a few animals kick into a frolic, inspiring the rest of the herd to abandon caution and race for the free food.
Boy, I quit counting at 15. I'd say there's probably close to 30 animals headed this way.
They begin feeding on the hay furthest from the trap, jostling for position and occasionally displaying to each other in an attempt to establish who's in charge.
Displaying dominance, most definitely. The largest calf or largest cow is showing dominance over the pile of hay. That's hers. And the spikes, you saw them hooking their heads and stuff. Yeah, same thing.
A few latecomers straggle in, anxious not to be left out. Eventually, 38 cows, calves, yearlings, and spike bulls are feeding at the site.
Big bulls rarely come in. We had 3 big bulls coming in for a time, but they usually don't come into the trap. Bulls are more secretive by nature. They hang out in their own little groups. The only time you see them with the cows is during the breeding season in September, and after that they usually break up and go their own way. We're running about 20 bulls per 100 cows, so if you figure those 3 big bulls and then the spikes we had, we're right about 17 or 18 per 100 cows with this group here.
The group begins a slow, steady migration as they feed, drifting ever closer to the entrance of the trap. Eventually, caution gives way to greed, and one of the bolder animals ventures in. She's found the mother lode. Larry watches from the truck, gripping the remote switch. Timing is everything, and patience is the key. The elk are skittish. Even the small movement of a magpie landing on a fence post sets them off. It's getting late, and the promise of a large group being caught in the trap is wearing thin. Only 2 are in the enclosure when Larry triggers the remote. And that's where they'll stay until morning. It's overcast and snowy when Larry pulls into the trap site early the next day.
I'm going to go stand by the door so they don't try and climb out.
It's a cow and a calf. The older animal has a scratch on her forehead, but otherwise they appear to be in good shape.
You see that one calf is laying down. I don't know if she's, just so mellow and unafraid that she's bedded down, or if she's so excited that her legs won't hold her up. I don't know, but I think it would be quite stressful for them. We try and minimize it, of course, by putting the boards up and stuff.
A horse trailer is backed up to a chute attached to the corral. It's a design borrowed from the livestock industry, but in this case, we're dealing with wild animals.
These are our fighting boards, we call them. They're just push boards that we use to keep ourselves from getting kicked, and protects the animals a little bit. We can push on them and push them into the chute.
3 of the biologists slip into the corral.
Let's get everybody in quick here. Let's go. All right, now, stand around the sides and don't move. Yeah, you'll need to untie it. Okay, she is not real happy to be in here. I think as soon as she sees an opening, she's going to go for it. So we may not have to move much. Okay, let's just kind of swing to the left, seeing as how they're on that side. And just move her right on in. Come on, gal. In you go. In you go. Door! That's okay.
That happened pretty quickly.
Yes. Now in cab. All right.
The crew works quickly, marking both animals with metal ear tags. This will enable biologists to keep track of elk that may return to the area.
And we're also taking blood from them to, one is for brucellosis testing and the other is for getting baseline data on the disease characteristics of the herd.
Brucellosis is a cattle disease that elk can also carry. So far in Idaho, there's never been a documented case of one of our state's elk being infected with brucellosis.
We're now ready to release her.
The gate is released and both elk trot quickly into the relative safety of the horse trailer. And so their journey begins down the road and over the snowy pass to the more forgiving territory along the South Fork of the Salmon River.
They look like they're ready to get loose. Okay. Sometimes they come right out, other times they don't. Oop, oop, oop.